Hello guys, welcome back. I'm so excited to have you here today because I'm going to be going over afternoon tea and tea parties. This is something that they do in the UK. This is a very social event. It is something that is very proper as well. There's a lot of etiquette. And so that is why I put this video together to not only talk about the tea party and show you some DIYs, of course, but also to give you the etiquette of the event and show you how to behave in a way that's going to encapsulate the essence of the afternoon tea. And this is really going to be a lot of fun. So I hope that you enjoy it. So first things first, why even have a tea party? Why even consider this afternoon tea conversation? Well, there's a couple of reasons. So the most obvious is going to be your special occasion. When you have a wedding shower, a baby shower, a Mother's Day, Father's Day, especially for those fathers with little girls. These are going to be all special events where you can kind of come together as a family and enjoy something. But I want to challenge you to think a little bit outside that box even. So what about, you have this fine china that you've inherited maybe from your grandmother, and you have it in a china cabinet in your dining room. You never use it. You just look at it. Nobody touches it. What about if you would have people over to your house maybe on a Sunday, and you break out that china and you set up this little tea party, and it's really something that you can bring in this kind of luxury event into your home with very little effort, and it's just going to give you a really nice feeling. Trust me, I've done it recently for Mother's Day with my sons, and also, well, now my two twin babies as well, but they're a little bit small to enjoy. My sons loved it. They used little espresso cups, and they had on their little Peaky Blinders hats. It was adorable. The event was so nice, and it really gave you a feeling of this is something we need to do more often. And when the children enjoy it and you enjoy it, you really start to see the allure of the afternoon tea, as they call it in UK. Don't call it high tea. That's a no-no. It is afternoon tea. And so I would like to get started with just how do you present yourself when it comes to the teacup, because this is going to be basically the foundation. If you go to a special event, for example, a wedding, shower, or a baby shower, then you may want to be a little bit more conscientious of your etiquette. First things first with your teacup. The main thing is that a teacup is very fragile. Okay, so especially you don't know where the cup is, where it came from from your guest. So what if that was inherited from their grandparents? It can be very delicate, and so a lot of the etiquette comes around dealing with delicate pieces and making sure that you're treating them with respect. So I think sometimes when we drink coffee, we have a tendency to stir up the cup kind of rough in a circle, and tap the spoon on the edge of the teacup, and maybe put the spoon in our mouth to get the milk and cream off of it. But you don't do any of those things when it comes to a teacup and a tea party. So first things first, when you are stirring so we have tea in our teacup. This is black tea. Black tea is typically done with milk and or sugar. You don't use cream in tea. It overpowers the flavor of the tea too much. And so now, once you have the milk and the sugar in there, you're going to need to stir it. You do not stir in a circle, and you do not clank on the cup. You go from front to back, front to back, front to back. And that is from the 6 o'clock to the 12 o'clock position without touching the sides of the glass. And of course, it is a little bit easier when you're looking at the cup and not filming. But then after that, you don't tap the side, and then you place your teaspoon behind the cup away from you. like I said, you don't lick it off. If the tea is too hot, you just make sure you let it cool down. You don't blow on it. And so there's a lot of kind of etiquette just around how do you behave with the teacup. When you pick it up, you don't do the elevated pinky effect. You keep your pinky down, and you actually pinch the handle with your thumb between your index finger and your middle finger. You don't actually loop your fingers into the cup like this. You pinch it. And it's actually a little bit easier when you have a little bit more of a delicate teacup. I have kind of a larger one here, and that is certainly makes it a little bit tougher to pinch it like that and hold it up for you guys. But I think you get the idea of how you're supposed to hold a tea cup. So now that we have an idea of how we're supposed to behave with the teacup, I want to show you some really fun DIY recipes. Okay, so the quintessential thing that happens at tea parties is you see those 3-tier trays that come out, and those trays are actually set up with the 3 courses of meals that you eat at a tea party. Okay, and so even though an afternoon tea is very some semi-formal, right? So it's not necessarily a casual event, so you want to dress smart to that. You actually eat it with your fingers, and it's expected that you eat your food with your fingers, except for obviously applying maybe jam to your scone, but otherwise, it's with your fingers. And so the tiers play a role as well. The top tier is typically for your scones because they're served warm, that they don't melt the rest of the food. The second tier is typically for your finger sandwiches, and then the bottom tier is typically for your tea cakes. Okay, so the first course, however, are all of your savory sandwiches. So the first recipe that we will be going through is this really nice dilly egg sandwich, and it is really tasty actually. So it's just a simple egg salad that you prepare, and then I cut up the squares for the pumpernickel, and then I took a dill pickle, actually a homemade bread and butter pickle, which I think tastes a little bit better than dill, but that's just my opinion, and you put it, spear it right through the top. Oh my goodness, are they delicious with that pickle on there. Like I said, I did use a bread and butter. The recipe says dill. It's up to you, whatever you prefer, but either way, they are a knockout. I did end up putting mine on the top tray, however, because my spears were a little bit tall. So that was the only reason. But like I said, those go on the second tier, generally speaking, for the most etiquette. But apparently I'm a rule breaker. So just that is the rules, but do it however is best for you. So the next recipe that I have is for the cucumber canopies, and oh my gosh, again, amazing, right? So the sauce is actually so many spices. I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of flavor going into them, but it really shines afterwards. And so I just took a glass, did some rounds on some rye bread, and then put a little bit of the sauce on there with a cucumber on top. You can do the pimentos from the olives. You can do little pieces of arugula like I did. But the main thing is that they are visually appealing. So I know that you're probably wondering, well, how do you make these? I actually have the recipe cards already printed out for you and ready in a really nice format in the show notes. So if you want to go ahead and click on this link, then they will take you to that area where you can get a hold of those recipes for yourself. So you don't need to worry about taking notes or something like that. It's just for you to enjoy right now. And then after you get an idea of the food and you're also drooling, then you're ready to get the recipes, and go ahead to the show notes and get those set up for you. Now, the other thing that I made was focaccia bread, and I've actually never made focaccia bread before, and this was so super easy and very delicious. Everyone in my family loved that, and I would say probably the favorite. Don't clink your silverware like that. That's one of the etiquette rules. But the focaccia bread really turned out well. What you can actually do is slice it. You can add prosciutto to that as well to make little focaccia sandwiches. I didn't do that at this time, but either way, it's just delicious. So I would definitely recommend that recipe as well. All three of these recipes were just knockouts, so that's why I'm sharing them with you today. The other thing you want to consider is who's your audience, right? So for me, when I had my tea party, I had my two young toddlers with me, and they're not so much into egg salad and cucumber canapes, right? So what I did was I made little finger sandwiches with them in mind as well. I took the peanut butter on bread, right? But I didn't want it to be just a peanut butter bread sandwich. These little bear cutters are so cute. They give such a nice appeal to the sandwich as well, and elevate it and then make it something that is doable and beautiful even to have on your tea tray. So now that our tier tray is starting to fill up, we're going to go on to what the next course is. After you eat your tea sandwiches, the next thing is the scone. Now, I don't think there is anything else on this list that has more roles than the scone, not even the teacup. I thought, I can't believe that there's so much controversy over the scone. So the scone is the most, I would say, when it comes to any of the food that we talk about, because the recipes vary for everything else, the scone is always on a 3-tier tray for afternoon tea. And the scone, when I first made it, right, before I looked up the etiquette, I thought, okay, well, it looks like a biscuit, right? I ate it like a biscuit, and you do not. That is a big no-no. So you do not cut it in half and then put the jam and then the butter on there and then eat it like that. So you have to break it into pieces, individual bite-sized pieces, and with your hands. And then each bite-sized piece, then you take your jam or your clotted cream or your butter and apply it to the scone, and then you eat it individually. Now, there is even controversy on what is added first, whether it be the clotted cream or the jam. And this varies depending on where you're from in the UK. But for our purposes, I think it really doesn't matter however you want to apply it. But just know that there is a little bit of history there, and it's kind of interesting information, I think. The other thing about a scone is that you don't want to, like I said, cut it down the middle and then sandwich it back together and eat the whole thing all at once. It's not a sandwich. It has to be broken up into pieces. Don't dunk the scone into your tea. So I think that, maybe because you think, with biscotti, it's kind of nice to dunk that into your tea, but dunking your scone into the tea is apparently a big no-no. So don't dunk your scone into the tea. The scone, like I said, it's just a little bit of a funny, a funny thing because there's so many rules about it that I found it a little bit amusing, but certainly it is something that you definitely need to have on your 3-tier tray if you want to have that quintessential afternoon tea luxury experience like they do in the UK. Last part is going to be probably the nicest for everyone, and the most exciting part are going to be the sweets. Okay, so your tea cakes. You can also, instead of doing tea cakes, do a little bit more fruit, which is what I did. Like I said, I just had 2 babies. So twins. So we are in no tea cake mode at this household. We are in baby weight mode at this household. So there, you can put whatever you want on your tier tray, but for that tea cake portion from the savory down into the sweets, you can put nice fruits. And I even incorporated what I thought would be nice if you have different types of tea. So maybe putting some lemons out. If you had something other than black tea that was being served, you could have that for that type of tea, because lemon doesn't go in black tea, just to be clear. But there are other teas where that is a nice accompaniment, and maybe we can go over that in the next video, what types of tea you have, what you put in different types of tea. But certainly the whole experience turned out so nice. It was so lovely. And when I felt that my children wanted to continue to have more tea parties and recreate that experience again. I knew that that was something that, was really special and something that I wanted to learn more about. And after looking it up, it is such a big thing in the UK, and it's such a man, if you go to different cities, especially I saw in London, you can have really beautiful tea tasting experiences in something that you can now do at home because you learned all the etiquette here today, and now you also know what to put on your trays, so you don't even need to go to London. You can now do it at your house. And if you really want to elevate for your next party, you can go ahead and stick around to watch my next video where I'm going to show you how to make DIY fascinators, and then you can also look the part, and then it's going to be a lot more fun. Make sure you hit subscribe, stick around. It's been so much fun talking with all you today and getting a chance to introduce myself to those of you who are new. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. And I hope to see you next time. Thanks, guys.